Howdy, folks. If you were unable to attend lab this week for the experimental laboratory portion of the methods class, we've got a pretty simple assignment for today, and I'm going to be walking you through some of the activity that you'll need to complete the assignment. You'll notice the instructions for the first part of the activity are fairly straightforward. You can complete those on your own time. However, this part 2 involves a bit of a presentation, so we're going to be going through that. Just a quick read through the instructions. Your instructor is going to walk you through the completion of a study designed to test creativity levels in different testing conditions. Use the space below to write your answers during the study for the study questions and grade results. After the completion of the study, you will write a method section for the activity you completed on the back of this paper. So let's learn a little bit about research into creativity and problem solving as we go through this activity. Okay, so we're going to go through and perform a remote associates test activity today. Creativity researchers often investigate what circumstances affect people's ability to be creative and solve riddles or difficult problems that they've got. They use this as way of measuring how well people can solve problems in their own lives. Riddles are a convenient, easy way to quantify your problem-solving ability, so they're often used in creativity and problem-solving research. A common type of riddle that gets used in these studies is known as the Remote Associates Test, or a RAT problem. Now, RAT problems consist of 3 words, and your job is to identify a 4th word that relates to the first 3. So let's look at an example. Let's say you get the words cottage, Swiss, cake. Can you think of a word that relates to all 3 of those words? Take a moment, and I'll give you the answer in 3, 2, 1. The answer is cheese. So cottage cheese, Swiss cheese, and cheesecake. So there you go. Cheese is related to the other things. If you find a word that works with 1 or 2 of these but not all 3, that's considered a wrong answer. So like ice cream cake, or say a wooden cottage, or any word like that would not work because it obviously doesn't work with all 3 of the exemplars there. So why do people get stuck on problems and riddles? One major theory on how people get stuck and they can't come up with an answer is known as the forgetting fixation theory. So let's look at each one of those words in part, starting with the idea of fixation. The idea behind this theory is that people have a difficult time coming up with a solution to a problem if they're stuck thinking about the wrong solution. So if you're stuck thinking about information that's not helpful for dealing with a problem, then you are fixated on that information. You're stuck thinking about something you don't want to think about, and that thought that's in your mind is preventing you from thinking about a problem in a different way or coming up with another answer that might be better than the one you're fixated on. So a common research paradigm is to observe how well people can answer RAT problems with and without being fixated on something. Forgetting fixation theory is that people are able to solve problems as long as they are able to forget the things they're fixated on, and we can artificially make people fixate on things by giving them wrong answers to things. For example, a piece of information that is specifically designed to cause fixation is called a blocker, because what it does is it blocks the right answer from coming to mind. A lot of RAT problems get answered almost instantly. You see those 3 words and you instantly think of the right answer. Sometimes you think of a wrong answer, and in order to come up with a word that fits that RAT problem, you need to be able to let go of the wrong answer to look for the right one. Okay, so the following page is going to display a series of RAT problems. This is where what was described in the activity instructions. And you're going to have some blockers. You'll have about 10 seconds to write down an answer to each RAT problem on your activity sheet before we'll move on to the next RAT problem. The blockers were created by picking a word that works with one or two of the RAT words, but not all three. So let's give it a go. We've got here a list. On the left, you'll see a word that you're really not supposed to pay too much attention to, but please read it and know that it's not the right answer. Then you'll see the three remote associates test words in the middle, and we'll see each one of those sets of 4 words for about 10 seconds before moving on to another problem. So if you can't think of the answer, don't worry, just move on and write your following answers on the next couple lines. Okay, so let's get started. We'll use the first one as an example. Okay, so just to make sure we're all on the same page, your job is to come up with a word that works with salad, head, and goose. And that word is definitely not lettuce. If you can't think of that word, that's okay. If you can, write it down, and let's move on to the next question. Okay, that's the end of the questions. Do you think you got some of them right? Let's take a look at the answers. Take a moment to count up how many of these got right. Make a note of it for yourself. Did you have trouble ignoring the blockers? Do you feel as though you fixated on some of them? Or did you fixate on another answer that might not have been right? Like Caesar salad or silly head. I don't know. All right. So next step, we're going to try the same set or same type of problems. They're going to be slightly different, but it's the same RAT problems. And this time we're not going to have a blocker. And so what we're hoping for, what we're looking to see, is that without a wrong answer presented to you, you may be better able to come up with answers to these riddles. Let's give it a shot. Once again, try and write down any answers you think of on your notes. Okay, so once again, go ahead, take a moment to see how many questions you managed to get right. Did you get more right this time than you did last time? The theory is that blockers will prevent you from finding the right answer because you'll fixate on the wrong answer. Did you get more right without blockers than with blockers? Some people do find that some people do find that outcome, but it doesn't always work. Some people are better at ignoring blockers than others, and sometimes the procedure that was used isn't ideal for forcing that blocker into your head. For example, this study works really well if you have to listen to the words. It's very hard to ignore a blocker if you hear it and then hear the other three. A lot easier to just not look on the left side. So there you go. Did you get more blockers right? More unblocked ones right? At this point, you should have filled out at least some of the activity sheet here. And now, in order to finish this activity, what you'll do is flip the page over and try to route out a methods section for the activity that we just concluded. Remember that the purpose of this study was to see whether more blockers prevent you from coming up with more answers to RAT problems. So the hypothesis might be that the blocker RATs get fewer right answers than the non-blocker RATs. When you're writing out your method section, make sure you have participants, materials, and procedures sections. You can mix the materials and procedures section if you like. Sometimes different sections get mixed in together. Be aware that because we're just completing these sections in class, if you're doing this at home, there doesn't really seem like there's a participant section, but you can go ahead and make up some numbers based off of the people that you know you have in your own laboratory setting. So you might have about 10, 20 people in your lab. Some of them are girls, some of them are guys. You can give an estimation on how many of each one of those things if you like. I also recommend you take a look at the method sections that were included in this first section to get an idea of what the writing you're going to do should look like. Make sure you turn that in before or at the beginning of next class, and have a good week. Take it easy. Ciao.